Ever since Sir Isaac Newton invented running by trying to walk twice in the same frame, people have been trying to hone the craft of doing everything and anything really, really fast. Truly pushing the limits of the human mind and body, finally reaching its natural conclusion of absolutely flying through your favorite childhood game in the fastest time humanly possible. Oh, that game that took you 3 years to beat when you were 8? I'll give it 11 minutes. Since its humble beginnings, speedrunning has become an almost spectator sport, drawing in tons of people to live events and live streams every year. Watching people who are much more talented than I at video games always amazes me, and recently seeing some clips of this sent me down this rabbit hole that I'm talking about now. Watching them pull these almost superhuman feats of focus, coordination, and reflex is some of the most satisfying things to watch when it comes to video games as a spectacle. It's the same reason I think people are drawn to esports, which coincidentally has almost as many cheaters, but with slightly more slurs per minute than the former. Today I'm going to run through a brief history of speedrunning, how it started with a few scattered communities of sweaty people in their basements to where it is now, all while talking about its impact on gaming and showcasing some of my favorite instances of people going absolutely nuts in video games, or some of the craziest nonsense to happen while speedrunning. So if that's something you're interested in, let's frame perfect jump through the terrain to skip the rest of this intro cutscene and get right into speedrunning, the most insane video game sport. Alright, let's start back in the Stone Age. Since the beginning, games with timers have incentivized players to get the best time that they can, whether to try and beat their personal best, or as a measuring contest with the boys. Most sources trace the first instance of this to the 1980 Atari game Dragster, where Activision encouraged anyone with a sub 6 second time to send them a picture of their record for what I can only assume to be bragging rights. This prompted a man named Todd Rogers to claim that he got a 5.51 second time and hold the Guinness World Record. Until 2018, where they data mined the game and came to the conclusion that the fastest possible time was 5.57, and Todd was just a big stinky liar, and subsequently his titles were removed and he was banished to the Shadow Realm. Okay, maybe not that last part. Speedrunning as we know it didn't really get its start until the year of our Lord 1993 when John Romero and the other Giga Chads over at id Software created Doom. Not only was this game massively influential in basically creating the first-person shooter genre as we know it, but also other things like challenge runs and more pivotal to this essay, the foundations for a modern speedrun. If you couldn't tell, I love and respect the hell out of Doom for what it achieved. So the key ingredients that it had in order to kickstart speedrunning as we know it were an in-game timer at the end of each level, and more importantly, demo files, which were basically just lightweight replays that you could save of your gameplay between level to level. So now people had the ability to record their best times and play them back, and in 1994, they had a place to share them. A website called CompeteN popped up, which had a leaderboard of Doom runs ranked on time. This would be one of the first speedrunning communities, and it would only grow from here after the release of another id Software title, 1996's Quake. Alright, so just like Doom, Quake had the fancy demo replay feature and a timer for your runs. And in 1997, Nolan Radix created the website Nightmare Speed Demos to host speedruns of Quake, but specifically on the Nightmare difficulty. In June of that same year, they stitched together a bunch of demos, creating a speedrun of the full game with the oh-so-snappy title of Quake Done Quick, which would be many people's introduction to speedrunning at the time. In 1998, Nightmare Speed Demos would merge with another site dedicated to hosting Quake demos but not on the Nightmare difficulty, and would form Speed Demos Archive, which was dedicated to hosting all sorts of Quake speedruns. Until 2003, when Nolan Radix, remember that guy from earlier, posted a 100% speedrun of Metroid Prime. This would open the gates for them to start accepting runs of all games. Also in 2003, but elsewhere in the World Wide Web, an anonymous person with the username Morimoto posted an absolutely insane speedrun of Super Mario Bros. 3 in a record-breaking 11 minutes. This run was mind-blowing at the time, and would introduce many people to the concept of speedrunning. Morimoto later clarified that the run was actually a tool-assisted speedrun, which is just using emulator save states and modifying the frame rate, along with other really technical stuff, to get a theoretically perfect run, which oftentimes contains inputs that, while theoretically are possible, aren't achievable by mere humans unless you're on your 15th Blue Raspberry Sour Patch Kids Ghost Energy Drink TM for the day. Consumed from your bootleg skeleton mug, of course. Domain expansion, infinite void of heart failure. Generally, these are used more of a research tool as to what's theoretically possible in a game in terms of glitches and potential inputs needed to achieve them. These are mostly used as a proof of concept rather than being accepted as an actual speedrun, but they are fun to look at nonetheless. As a more topical example of today's standards, they're kind of like the Subway Surfers gameplay in the bottom of the screen of speedrunning. I'm not watching this guy explain concepts, I'm watching Mario do a rad kickflip through a wall. Nowadays, tasks can be used to verify the integrity of runs by listing the inputs used during runs and other internal workings of games. Because spoiler alert, there are people who will lie about their runs for some internet clout. That's crazy, right? For example, I once claimed that I arm wrestled a bear into submission and got 4 subscribers off of that. Anyway, speedrunning would continue to grow in popularity thanks to the advent of streaming sites such as YouTube in 2005 and Twitch in 2011. Having the ability to easily post your own run or watch other people's on a mainstream, easily accessible platform introduced many people to the concept of speedrunning, and was really one of the big things responsible for catapulting it to the popularity that it is now. This also meant that people could now more easily collaborate on games, sharing tips and strategies on how to best optimize their runs, and in a sense brought together these scattered groups of people who like playing games really fast into an even larger community devoted to speedrunning games of all kinds. This sense of community would really be put on display when in 2010 the people from the earlier mentioned Speed Demos archives decided to hold a speedrunning marathon for charity called Classic Games Done Quick, named after a Quake done quick from earlier. See, it all comes back around. The marathon was inspired by some previous speedrunning charity marathons hosted by Loading Raid Run in 2007 and the Speed Gamers in 2008, but this was the first to really garner mainstream attention. Internet connection problems at the hotel where the marathon was being hosted caused Speed Demos Archives administrator to relocate to his mom's basement and set up a bootleg marathon stream from there. And while obviously not an ideal situation, they still managed to raise an impressive $10,000 for charity. Seeing the success of that, they decided to follow it up with Awesome Games Done Quick and Summer Games Done Quick in 2011, raising $50,000 and $20,000 respectively, and since then both have become an annual event, drawing bigger and bigger crowds each year to in-person and live-streamed events, which I think is just so f***ing cool. Gathering a bunch of people who love video games in order to push the limits of what humans can achieve, spurred on by cooperative and competitive spirit alike, all while raising money for good causes. I mean, if you aren't feeling inspired as hell right now, check your pulse, because you might be dead. The amount of passion and drive it takes to learn these games inside out, and perfect the moment-to-moment near-inhuman speeds of gameplay is absolutely insane. And if you couldn't tell by the tone of my voice, it just makes me feel inspired, and gives me an appreciation for how cool people can be sometimes. The actual sport of speedrunning at the time of me writing this is in a great place. No matter what weird niche game you're looking to play, there's probably a speedrun of it. From AAA to indie to please God give us Bloodborne at a stable fucking frame rate. If it exists, someone's trying to break it. There's a near infinite amount of speedrunning content for every game imaginable on this platform, so much so that you could fall into a rabbit hole for weeks on a single game. Channels like Summoning Salt, for example, are top notch, and Devs React to Speedruns is a neat twist on speedrunning content. In that vein, I just wanted to briefly summarize a few of my favorite speedrunning related events or some more interesting ones that I found while researching this video, and even a few mentioned to me by the Big Meat Gang named Pending on my Twitter and Patreon. I'll start here with maybe one of the more interesting ones. Mario 64 is one of my favorite childhood games, and with all the exploitable mechanics, is no stranger to people speedrunning it. Usually this means practicing pinpoint jumps and executing them in order to launch Mario off terrain and skip large chunks of levels. Or the more famous example of backwards long jumping up the infinite staircase in order to shave off having to collect as many total stars to get to the final level. This game has been played to death, and people have cataloged most of the glitches and exploits used for runs, but there's one instance of something happening in the game that baffles people to this day. In the level Tick-Tock Clock, a speedrunner Dota Teabag unintentionally performed what's known as a upwarp, where you essentially teleport Mario upwards to a grabbable ceiling. However, this was done without any of the known conditions met. There were no hangable ceilings above him, and this trick had never been performed in that spot before. This would be an incredible breakthrough if people could learn how he did it and replicate it consistently. However, that's the thing. To this day, people don't exactly know why it happened. The reasoning behind the actual event happening is because a bit in memory got flipped, causing Mario's position to shift upward. But that's the catch. People don't know why that happened. These single event upsets, as they're called, are pretty rare, and in most cases have little to no observable impact on the game, but in this one extremely rare specific instance, it actually helped the speedrun. The run was replicated down to the exact inputs, and a well-known member of the Mario 64 community, Panenkoic, used a script to manually change the bit, which, while not exact, did cause a very similar outcome, but people were still at a loss as to why it got flipped. Many theories from a faulty connection in the cartridge to actual cosmic radiation making its way down from the atmosphere to flip a bit in memory were thrown around, even going as far as to run tests on the actual N64 console that he was using when it happened, and found no solid answer. Panenkoic even put out a $1,000 bounty to whoever could figure out why it was done, but to this day has never been claimed. While rogue space particles probably aren't the case, the mere idea of it being a possibility is really neat. And hey, we don't have a better answer, so since it's cool, that's my headcanon. Regardless, this seemed to be a once-in-a-lifetime glitch that we probably won't ever have a definitive answer to, but is one of the most fascinating bits of speedrunning history I found in my research. Diving back into nostalgia territory now, I wanted to take a look at a childhood classic, Spongebob Battle for Bikini Bottom. At its core, speedrunning is about optimization, but how deep does the rabbit hole go to shave off a few seconds? To what lengths would someone go to achieve a better time? If you guess smearing gamer grease on your discs, well, for one, who thinks of that? And for two, you would be entirely correct. It was found with Spongebob Battle for Bikini Bottom that smudging or scratching the disc in certain areas makes the game ever so slightly harder to read, which allows for an exploit called lag clipping to be done easier. Lag clipping is just pausing and unpausing the game in order to clip through terrain. If the game takes a longer time to catch up, this is much easier to perform. specifically with faulty hardware or slower drives, which is why most people who speedrun this game prefer certain physical media versions to other versions of the game. Many people don't agree with potentially damaging the game in order to get a slightly better time, so it's more of a niche technique, a curse technique if you will. Agree with it or not, it really shows the ingenuity of speedrunners, finding this one extremely unlikely way to scratch a few more seconds off their runs in ways most sane people never would have anticipated.
Why do you want all that artwork? Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to.
Finally, it wouldn't be a media video if I didn't try and shoehorn New Vegas into it somehow. I actually talked briefly about this one in the New Vegas Iceberg Part 2, which contains a lot of little facts and trivia about the game, which if you haven't seen it, I personally think it's a very comfy video. That'll be on the card on screen now if you want to check it out. Anyway, in Fallout New Vegas, you can perform this exploit by swapping between ammo types with any gun that has a reload animation that reloads one bullet at a time, which if done correctly, will slingshot you in whatever direction you're moving very quickly. And if you bind that weapon to a hotkey, you can chain them together to clear large areas very fast. Used in conjunction with the popular time stop glitch, which is basically just the world from JoJo, and other popular exploits, you can really break the game, more than the Gamebryo engine already is anyway. Which leads to people doing some really interesting challenge runs. Some of my favorites that I've seen are the Zero Equip Load and the Pacifist runs by this guy here. More general to speedrunning though, with these popular glitches and the amount of other exploits in the game, you can beat the game in a mind-boggling 10 minutes, which is absurd that anyone would want to rush through a game like this, but even more mind-boggling that they can do it. Nothing like watching someone fart on your favorite video game in the time it takes to get through one intro segment of one of my videos. So what was the point of this whole monologue, Meaty? Well, mostly to showcase some cool parts of what is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting corners of gaming. Speedrunning is one of those facets of games that I admire so much. To summarize what I said earlier, I respect the people who give it their all when learning a video game's mechanics inside and out, and then practicing that to perfection. Watching someone who's a master of their craft go absolutely sick nasty on some unholy shit in Super Mario World is just so satisfying to watch. And with speedrunning tools, resources, and streaming sites being so easily accessible now, almost anyone can get into it and have a blast just trying to break their favorite game for the amusement of strangers on the internet, and I just think that's great. It means that speedrunning as a sport, or whatever you want to call it, isn't in any danger of dying out anytime soon. And I for one am really happy about that. Because as long as games exist and the concept of time still exists, people are going to try and beat them as quickly as humanly possible, pulling whatever crazy out-of-pocket shit they can out of their bag of tricks to get a few seconds on the competition. Whether it be for fun, for competition, or even for charity, I hope that speedrunning continues to thrive and we see more of the most insane video game sport. Thanks for watching. Hey, thank you for making it to the end of yet another video. If you want to like the video and subscribe, that makes me and the algorithm very happy, and I would appreciate it a ton. Comments are also encouraged. Do you have a favorite speedrun or moment from one? Let me know in the comments, I'm always looking for more interesting stuff to check out. If you really like my content, you want to support me and what I do, consider checking out the Patreon link in the description, but no pressure, I'm just happy you're here checking out my stupid video. Speaking of the Patreon, thank you to NDH for your Patreon support. You help me continue doing what I like to do. Thank you to everyone who commented on my Twitter post about this video, and thank you all once again for watching. I hope you all have a good one, and I'll see you next time.